House Education and Workforce Committee will come to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Chair DeBoer.
Here.
Representatives Linting. Paquette.
Yes.
Fox. Coons.
Here.
St. Germain. Here. Pavlo.
Here.
Wilson. Bolzar.
Here.
Weiss. Here. Burns. Madam Chair, you have 7 members present. You have a quorum.
Thank you. We have Representative Paquette moves to adopt the minutes of the September 24th meeting. Without objection, the minutes are adopted. As the members can see, we have a substantial agenda today with bills on assorted topics. If you are here today to hear the testimony on House Bill 4916, please note that it was removed from the committee agenda, and we will not be having testimony on that bill today. So to begin today, the committee will take up House Bill 4922, sponsored by Representative Kelly, and hear testimony only. This bill is also one of 56 bills recently introduced in the Red Tape Reduction Initiative. Welcome, Representative. Please begin when you are ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair and distinguished members. As the Chair DeBoer mentioned, this is part of the Red Tape Reduction Initiative, over 50 bills aimed at simplifying and bringing down barriers to employment. My bill covers the unnecessary master's degree for a librarian. Other than a teaching certificate, we don't feel that it needs to go further than that. And I would point to Governor Whitmer's own words in her State of the State address just this year, who said a lot of our licensing rules and requirements don't make much sense. Well, this is one of them. I think that there has been efforts. We can see that there's 8 to 9% of school libraries have a school librarian with a master's degree. Over 65 have no staff at all. So clearly we're getting by. Wayne State is the only institution that offers this degree. So it's clearly a limiting factor and one that I think that it's, again, a simple bill to try and keep up to date with today's needs. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, sir. Questions? Representative Colazar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your testimony. I've read through multiple studies that show when you have a certified school librarian with a functioning library in a school, literacy rates tend to improve. Now, you have been vocal about your criticisms of our literacy rates in the state. So my question is, if we know that this works, shouldn't we be trying to incentivize more school librarians rather than getting rid of the master's program altogether?
Well, Representative Colazar, and I suspect in a perfect world, but if you're looking at 65% of schools that don't have any staff in their school library, what's that tell you? Clearly, this is not it's a want than a need rather than a need. It's clearly not enough people, men and women going into this field that want to do this. Again, I think that it's in today's internet age, again, I don't know how many 5, 6, 7-year-olds, say I want to be a librarian. Again, I think it's just as a somewhat of an antiquated, need or an antiquated requirement. We have differing bills and inconsistencies with requirements. It takes 1,800 hours for a barber, yet 194 hours for an EMT. So let's make some sense of this, and one I think it makes sense is not to require a higher degree other than a teaching certificate to be a school librarian.
Thank you. Representative Weiss.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative, for your testimony. I once briefly moonlighted as a school librarian through an AmeriCorps program, so I have a little bit of experience with this. I also have worked in many schools. None of the schools that I have worked in have had libraries or school librarians. But I think it's important to understand the history of how we got to that point, because it used to be that school librarians and school libraries were very common and in most schools in the state. Decades of disinvestment and a refocus on more core subjects pulled people out of those programs and put them into other places and disincentivized people into going into education altogether. I saw when I started teaching It was really hard to get a teaching job in Michigan. And when I left, they had a hard time finding people to even interview for my position. And so this is like an issue that's decades in the making. I don't think that removing a certification requirement is going to make more school librarians.
Well, I think that you would have more school librarians, only because, I mean, right now, you have 65% of our schools that don't have any staff. So clearly, it's not of importance to the schools that they have anybody there. I would think if somebody wants to make something more of their school library, then let them be a librarian at a lesser degree.
I would argue that I think most schools and school districts in the state would love to have school librarians in all of their buildings. They're under-resourced, they don't have the support and be able to do it, and frankly, understaffed. We're understaffed in a lot of key staffing areas already in special education and other fields that we need to have people in teaching in classrooms. There are a lot of districts that have vacancies in some of those critical positions. So it's not so much that people aren't doing it because they don't want to get the extra certification, it's that there are just not enough people in the field to begin with.
Well, Representatives, I think we've all seen the charts with the growth of administrators, with a northern trajectory and school enrollment, student enrollment with a southern direction. So clearly staffing, it's about choices, about what you want to do with your school delivery, and I think that clearly 65% of schools have made that choice.
Yeah, I just don't think that taking away the certification is going to make more school librarians.
When you take something away, you usually get more of it.
All
Thank
right,
you.
we'll have to double check that. Thank you.
Representative Coons.
Representative, what you're saying is, if we make something harder to do, we're going to have less of them.
Thank you.
And if we make something easier, we'll have more of
If you
them.
tax something, you get less of it.
Correct. And if we
That's
make
what
it
this is.
easier, we could have more librarians.
I would agree.
Thank you, sir. Wanted to clarify. That was my question.
Thank you for your questioning clarification. Anyone else? Okay, we have Steve
Thank you.
Goff, who is, yes, thank you, sir. We have Steve Goff, who is the Director of Teaching and Learning at Lowell Public Schools on Zoom to speak to this question. We hope.
Chair DeBoer, Vice Chair Linting, Vice Chair Wilson, and members of the House Education and Workforce Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here today in support of quality school library programs across the state of Michigan. My name is Steve Goff, and I have been in public education now in Michigan for almost 30 years. I spent the last 21 years as a secondary school administrator, and 15 of those as a high school principal. I've seen a great deal of red tape in education, and I am all for red tape reduction, especially in areas where that reduction will improve conditions for our students and our teachers. I believe strongly that we need to improve student learning outcomes in the state of Michigan, but I do not see evidence that reducing the standards for school librarians is likely to do that, and I speak from some degree of experience. I was once a teacher in a middle school English and history classroom supported by a highly qualified school librarian and library program. That highly qualified school librarian administered an outstanding library program, and she was an incredible resource that supported teachers in their work and students in their learning. The students that I served at that time learned to research in the library. They learned to think critically when analyzing information and resources, and they learned the power of reading in their learning. I did not truly appreciate the value of that library program until it closed due to budget cuts. The library was still there, and we tried as teachers to find ways to keep it going, but it was never the same without the highly skilled certified librarian, and I am certain that the loss of that program negatively impacted student learning outcomes. I spent my last years as a teacher without a highly qualified certified librarian to support my instruction, and I spent my first 14 years as an administrator without the support of a highly skilled librarian. I did all that I could as a building leader to keep our libraries functioning as vibrant learning spaces. I am a certified English teacher. I love to read, but I failed miserably in that endeavor. I am not qualified to run a school library, even though I have a degree in English education, a master's degree in educational leadership, and nearly 2.5 decades administering school programs. We do need more highly skilled certified school librarians if we truly expect to improve student learning in this state. We do not have enough of them in Michigan, but I don't believe that red tape is the problem, and I don't believe that the solution is to lower standards. I believe the solution is to improve conditions for our teachers and to encourage and support those who would like to go on and become highly skilled certified librarians. It has been my privilege to spend the last 7 years as a high school principal in a system with a truly outstanding school librarian who runs a truly outstanding school library program. I see the impact of that program on student learning every day. And that is why I am asking this committee to maintain school librarian certification in the state of Michigan. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Representative Coons.
Sir, I couldn't find out, how long have we required certified librarians? How long has the state of Michigan had this requirement? Does he know that I'm asking him?
Can you hear?
As long as I have been in education, as far as I know, there has been a requirement for certification for school librarians.
And can you tell me, have reading scores gone up or down in that time period? Third grade reading specifically, let's focus on that.
I would have to look back at that data over the course of my career. I think at this point, we're experiencing a decline in literacy scores.
Yes, thank you.
Representative Colzar.
Thank you for your testimony, sir. Would you argue that because, as it was quoted by the bill sponsor, that 65% of our schools don't have school librarians, that has hurt literacy scores across the state?
I would argue that that has hurt literacy scores across the state, that lack of certified librarians across our state.
Okay, thank you. Next, we will have, thank you, sir, for your testimony. We appreciate you coming in on Zoom. Next, we'll have Kathy Lester from the Wayne State University Adjunct Faculty. She's the past president of the American Association of School Librarians.
Good morning, Chair DeBoer and members of the House Education and Workforce.
You have to push the button.
Red button. Okay. Chair DeBoer and members of the House Education and Workforce Committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify in opposition of House Bill 4922. I am Kathy Lester, past president of the American Association of School Librarians and a certified school librarian in Michigan with 23 years of experience. Yes, Michigan is currently confronting a literacy crisis, and research supports that increasing access to certified school librarians increases literacy achievement. Thus, to me, this bill feels like an anti-literacy bill. I have met with legislators and showed them the graphs of the decline of certified school librarians in our state, and it matches the decline in our reading scores in our state. So there is a correlation. And school librarian certification is not random. It is not red tape. Preparation for teacher librarians includes youth literature, technology integration, collaborative curriculum leadership, school library administration, collection development, and teaching all forms of literacy, including information, media, digital, and artificial intelligence literacy. School librarians are teachers, information specialists, and library administrators who teach and collaborate with the entire school community to increase student achievement and prepare students for college and career readiness. I believe there's a huge misunderstanding of the current requirements for school librarian certification in Michigan. While a master's degree is one pathway, the Michigan Department of Education has approved a 15-credit endorsement program at Wayne State University for school librarian endorsement that includes the preparation that I just mentioned. The coursework is all online so that any teacher across Michigan can earn this endorsement. And this endorsement requires fewer credit hours than similar endorsement programs in Ohio and Indiana, which were referenced in a 2019 Mackinac Policy Center article about this issue. Also, it is important to note that the Michigan Department of Ed has provided guidance stating that while it is a best practice To employ teachers with school librarian specialist certification to teach and administer school librarians. Teachers with the K-5 all subjects endorsement already can be assigned as a school librarian in schools. So we don't need this bill. They can already do that. A documented justification for eliminating school librarian certification in this package of bills is that there's no public interest. This is false. Parents, teachers, and administrators want students to have access to certified school librarians. Several organizations, including the Michigan Parent-Teacher Association, have submitted statements opposing this legislation. Our packet that we should have been distributed to all of you includes many additional personal statements, and we received significant statewide support from Michigan constituents in our attempts to increase access to school librarians. Also, because of my national role, I know that if this bill were to pass, Michigan would be the only state, and including Washington, D.C., without school librarian certification. All 50 states, plus Washington, D.C., have school librarian certification requirements, and additionally, approximately 26 states, including Mississippi, have some type of legal requirement for staffing school libraries with certified school librarians. In summary, I'm asking this committee to vote against Michigan becoming the only state in our nation to eliminate school librarian certification. Please support our students and support our state's critical need to increase reading achievement by instead working toward increasing student access to fully funded school libraries adequately staffed with certified school librarians. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you have additional people with you?
Yes, I do. Lori?
Kathy, can you just stay up there? We have some questions for you. Sorry. Thank you. Representative Coons?
I hate to ask ambiguous questions, but really briefly, can you tell me why there's a shortage of librarians?
Honestly, money.
Honestly, it'd be
It's money.
great.
Like every administrator, every legislator that I've spoken to individual on a one-to-one basis believes that they want access to school librarians, but they all say they can't afford it if they don't have it.
And how does a master's degree help in an elementary library?
So as I
Thank you.
said, you don't necessarily have to have that master's degree. We have already moved. 2019, a program got approved by the Michigan Department of Ed where it's a 15-credit endorsement program. And what it teaches is the critical skills you need to master, to, you know, as a qualified person, run that school library, support literacy. You learn about youth literature, you learn about copyright, you learn about the ethics of running a good school library program. You learn collection development and what it takes to collect not just books, but electronic resources. You get an overview of the whole curriculum of the school so that you can support not just one subject, but all of the subjects within that school and all of the teachers within that school.
Thank you. Representative Weiss?
Thank you. Thank you so much for your testimony. You mentioned Mississippi, and there's been a lot of attention on Mississippi lately. I think sometimes that can be fraught. But it is true that they have recently increased their reading scores. And it's also true that one of the main things that's been cited for why their reading scores have gone up is that they actually instituted a requirement that there be a certified librarian in every school. Can you speak more to that?
Yeah, I believe in Mississippi, like the other states, they have implemented a requirement to have certified school librarians in every school, and then they also included school librarians in that initiative to improve literacy. So they were, it's a teamwork. We really need to, when your literacy scores are low, there needs to be this whole team working together to support your students, to support the staff and teachers in that school. Our literacy essentials, which is out of MAISA, there's a school-wide literacy essential document, and within that document, they say that the best practice is to have a certified school librarian in your school and for all of your teachers and students to work with that school librarian to increase reading.
Thank you. Representative St. Germain.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So in Michigan, currently, we know we have a teacher shortage. My daughter's a teacher. When she started her program, her cohort program, there were a group of 25 students. By the time she graduated, that number fell to under 10. So with that being said, do we have a librarian student shortage? Are students going to school to study to be a librarian?
Wayne State has had, I don't know the exact numbers, I don't want to quote them off, but every year there are, a large cohort of students that are in this 15 credit endorsement program. And it's, and those students are given the option to do that 15 credits or also additionally go on and also earn the master's degree if they would like to, but they don't necessarily have to.
So do we have a shortage of students, though?
I do believe overall that there are a shortage, and it's a chicken and egg problem. I mean, when they started eliminating school library positions, you want, to have a job. You want to know when you get that certification that you are going to have a job. And so, yeah, chicken and egg. And I do know that when the state opened up their Grow Your Own grants to allow the certification program to be included, that there were many districts that reached out to take a part of that, to get teachers certified with school library certification. However, that program stopped. And so it was really only available 1 year to districts, but there were districts that applied and were using those funds to get people in their districts certified.
Okay, thank you.
Kathy, would you mind introducing your guest to speak?
Okay, this is Lori Lamars, and she is a Lansing area certified school librarian.
Thank you.
Hello. Thank you for letting me speak today. First, I would like to reiterate, I am Lori Lilmars. I am a local Lansing area school district certified librarian. When I was first placed in library, I only had my K-8 all subjects teaching endorsement. While that qualified me to be a classroom teacher, it did not prepare me to run a library. I quickly realized how different the library environment was. I had no training on how to maintain a collection, curate resources, or implement systems necessary for circulation and organization. My classroom management experience worked great in the classroom when they were seated and engaged in structured lessons, but that didn't even begin to prepare me for managing a large group in an open library space where students were moving, browsing, and working in many different ways all at once. I was overwhelmed, to say the least, and as a result, I transferred out of that shared library position as quickly as I could, simply because I wasn't adequately prepared to do the job well. Everything changed when I began the Wayne State Library Science program. The coursework provided me the foundation that I had been missing. I learned not only how to manage the active flow of a library, but how to curate the collection so that it reflects the diversity, interests, and academic needs of my student population. I developed skills in organization, cataloging, and resource management that made daily operations of running a library run smoothly. More importantly, I gained the confidence to lead and make informed decisions for both my students and my staff. The program also connected me with the professional community. Through professors, peers, and fieldwork, I gained insight into what a thriving library looks like and how it can function as the heart of a school. I learned how to advocate for library services, integrate technology, and support teachers in their instruction while also meeting the needs of varied needs of my students. Today, I confidently oversee and manage libraries across a very large local district. The knowledge and preparation I gained through Wayne State transformed what once felt overwhelming and impossible into one of the most rewarding aspects of my career. Students in my district now have access to what I feel is becoming a strong, vibrant, well-run library system. That's something that would not have been possible had I not gotten this training and education. Please, I beg you, oppose 4922.
Thank you. We have Representative Colzar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your testimony. You talked about the chicken and the egg. Now, my question to you is, if rather than eliminate the school librarian certification, if we were to require every school had a certified school librarian, and we funded it properly, and we funded the ability for teachers to go back and get the coursework necessary to achieve the certification, have you done any surveys regarding the demand that there would be? Because after all, that would be guaranteed job security if you got that, correct?
I have not done, honestly, any surveys, but I do know I've had a lot of people talk to me with interest in this program at Wayne State, but they are concerned about, having a job when they come through it, honestly. So I feel like if, there was a demand, that there definitely would be people interested in becoming a certified school librarian. And I do feel like students that have worked in districts with high-quality school libraries and, really engaging school librarians, they would want to do that job, honestly. I, have had students that graduated from a library that I worked in that have gone on with that sort of interest.
Thank you. And thank you for your testimony. Thank you for coming in today. We really appreciate it. And thank you for helping kids. We appreciate it. Oh, I'm sorry. Representative Burns.
Thank you, Chair. I apologize for the late question. Thank you both for your testimony. I know you mentioned that when you first started as a school librarian, you didn't have necessarily the certification or the specific training. Can I ask, how long were you in that role before you transferred out? I know you said you transferred out as soon as you could. How long was that?
Honestly, I got placed in August. I was out before Halloween.
Okay, so a couple months, and then I know you said you also went back to Wayne State and you got your master's in library science. Since you completed that program and you now have the certification and the training, how long have you been in your position at this point?
12 years.
12 years, okay. So that's a difference then. No certification, you could hold down the fort for a couple of months. With certification and education, over a decade. Thank you so much. Thank you both for your service to our kids.
Thank you so much. And we have finished the amount of time we can possibly use for this topic. So I will read the comments. We have Representative Glanville, who opposes the bill, would like to speak, but we cannot do it. Carrie Belts from the Self-School Librarians, who opposes the bill and would like to speak. And again, we can't facilitate that today. Olivia Ponte from the Michigan Department of Education opposes the bill, does not wish to speak. Jeff Cobb from the Education Trust Midwest opposes the bill, does not wish to speak. Jarrett Scarp from the Mackinac Center supports the bill and does not wish to speak. And Sarah Hoovey from the Michigan Council of Teachers of English opposes the bill, does not wish to speak. Tammy McGinty from the Michigan Association for Computer Users in Learning opposes the bill, does not wish to speak. Tim Goldings and Sonny Koch from Americans for Prosperity Michigan support the bill and will not wish to speak. So that is our lineup for that. Next, the committee will take up House Bill 4665, sponsored by Representative Witwer. Today, the representative is joined by Doug Pennington, who is the Olivet Community Schools FFA advisor, and Samantha Stanke, who is an administrative assistant for the Michigan FFA state staff and Michigan State University student studying agronomy and crop science. Welcome to the House Education and Workforce Committee, and please begin when you are ready.
Well, that is a tough act to follow. But thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Education and Workforce Committee. I appreciate the opportunity to discuss House Bill 4665 with you this morning. My bill would amend the revised school code to allow for the governing body of a public school to consider a student's absence from school to be an excused absence if they are attending a scheduled competition, exhibition, or event offered by the National FFA organization, the Michigan FFA Association, a 4-H club, or any other agricultural organization approved by the school board within a school district. Under the bill, the student must be in good academic standing, and the school board, intermediate school district, or the board of directors of the public school must ensure its attendance policy in accordance with this legislation. The legislation proposal was brought to my office's attention by one of my constituents after a state of Indiana passed a similar law earlier this year. Currently, Michigan is home to 8,800 FFA members in 124 chapters across the state. Michigan FFA students participate in a wide array of activities, including leadership and skill-based contests, hands-on supervised agricultural experiences like the Broiler Project, community services projects, and attending state and national conferences and conventions. The opportunities that FFA provides students with help develop their critical thinking, their public speaking skills, and their teamwork skills while exploring careers in agriculture. According to a recent Michigan Farm News article published in August of 2025, Michigan FFA chapters had the highest percentage increase in membership out of any state from 24 to 25. This 4.7% increase in membership nearly doubled the next highest state, which is Florida, who added 7.7%. The impact of the work that FFA does in our state is essential to our agricultural industry as about 81% of the agricultural jobs require more than a high school degree, and less than 3% of college students are pursuing a degree in agriculture, according to the Michigan FFA website. The FFA organization continues to open doors for students to learn about agricultural careers available to them while also enhancing their leadership skills and prioritizing personal growth. With agriculture being one of Michigan's top 3 industries that contribute over $100 billion annually to the state's economy, and with 25% of the agriculture workforce over the age of 55, it is critical that we continue to work together towards supporting the education and development of the next generation of agricultural workers by ensuring they are able to participate in these events without being penalized with unexcused absences on their attendance record. I just want you to know that additionally, we are proposing a substitute for this legislation that would make a slight change to the wording regarding the number of absences. Originally, we had written 6 excused absences to mirror what Indiana enacted, but after conversations, we did not want to cause any unintentional issues with schools who may already allow more than 6 excused absences for their students for FFA. The language would instead read that the student can't exceed the number of excused absences allowed by the student's school district. This change emphasizes that the state views the FFA as an educational resource for students, and it provides clarity by allowing local school districts to have conversations about how it would fit within their attendance policies. I appreciate your consideration from this. I am joined by Doug Pennington. He is an FFA advisor at Olivet Community Schools in my district. I have presented to his classroom and went in and answered questions about the political landscape. And I'm also joined by Samantha Stanky. She and her sister Elizabeth are leaders, or have been leaders. I think you may have aged out of this. And she is the administrative assistant for the Michigan FFA state staff. Very great resource to me and our district, and Samantha herself has also been an intern in my office, and they're constituents of mine who can speak their experiences to this program. We're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do we have a chair shortage at that table?
Yeah, we do. I'll give mine up and let
Oh, okay.
Samantha come up here.
Thank you. So do we have questions?
I'm
Well-
happy to take any questions. I I've been doing this 34 years, and it's an amazing organization. So if you have questions, what is FFA or any of those types of things, please feel free.
Representative Fox.
Yeah, I had quite a long listen-in discussion yesterday with a farming mom, a very strong FFA supporter. And the question that she brought was, what does this phrase, any other agricultural organization approved, mean, okay? And how far does this go, and where will the line be drawn? And I'll just give you my growing up situation. I tended hardwood Herefords, okay? And I'll let you guys think about what that is a minute. And I often took unexcused absence for tending hardwood Herefords with my shotgun, okay? And so would that be excused under any other agricultural activity?
We wrote it that way so it would open it up to local control, and they could make the decision whether or not that was an appropriate excused absence for organizations like that.
One of the things, there's 130 school districts that have agri-science and FFA in them, but there's also a lot of districts that do not. And there are many students around the state who attend state and national events related to 4-H or FFA. Well, they can't do FFA if they don't have the program. They do 4-H and they show, and the experiences you can get by going to some of these things, a lot of them, it's not just taking your animals. A lot of them have educational components such as Quiz Bowl. There's problem-solving events and different types of things. And I think the intent was to help schools that don't have an agri-science program have a way for kids who are legitimately doing good things and learning a lot of things about the agriculture industry at some of these events and shows to give them an avenue to get an absence, excused absence.
Thank you. Representative Weiss.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate the explanation of the bill sponsor about the change that's coming. And this might be more of a question for you, Madam Chair. It's just a process question. Do you know why we're not voting on the sub version with the change in committee and why we're doing that on the floor? Is that just a timing issue?
That's my assumption. Things have gone kind of back and forth, and that's where we landed moments before this meeting.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Anyone else? But yeah, it's definitely a needed amendment. Okay, great. Thank you so much for coming in. Thank you for all you've been doing. We appreciate the farmers of Michigan for sure, one of our top 3 industries, and we definitely want to support them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have some cards to read in. Bob Keffigan from the Michigan Association of Secondary School Principals opposes the bill, does not wish to speak. Olivia Ponte from the Michigan Department of Education opposes the bill and does not wish to speak. So Vice Chair Linting moves to report House Bill 4665 with recommendation. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Chair DeBoer,
Yes.
Representatives Linting. Yes. Pat,
Yes.
Fox,
Yep.
Coon,
Yes.
St. Germain,
Yes.
Pavlo,
Yes.
Wilson, Kozar,
Yes.
Weiss. Pass. Burns.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 8 yeas, 0 nays, 2 pass. The motion prevails.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The committee will now take testimony on House Bill 5044, sponsored by Representative Wendzel. I do anticipate taking additional testimony on this bill at a future committee meeting from other stakeholders. Representative Wendzel is joined by Kristen Weir, a board-certified behavioral analyst. We are going to wait for questions until the committee is able to hear all the testimony on the bill today, which has been coordinated by Representative Wenzel's office. Welcome, and please begin when you are ready, Representative.
Thank you, everyone. Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to speak to you this morning on House Bills 5044. So this bill is simple, vital, and grounded in common sense. It is about ensuring that a student's right to an education is never compromised by their medical needs. It is about bringing consistency and clarity to a process that is often confusing and very stressful for Michigan families. So right now, parents with children who rely on continuous prescribed therapies such as applied behavioral analysis, or ABA, for autism spectrum disorder often struggle to coordinate the medically necessary treatment ordered by their doctors with their children's school day. The procedures can be inconsistent and bureaucratic, vary dramatically from one district to the next. So this bill solves that problem. We are requiring every school district in Michigan to adopt a clear, transparent policy. Simple as that. This policy will ensure two critical things. First, that a student can receive treatment ordered by their healthcare specialist while they are in the school setting. Second, every parent receives clear notice of their rights under federal laws and the ADA. Furthermore, this legislation establishes a firm timeline for action. When a parent submits a request for accommodation, the school is required to meet with the student, the parent, and their designated health care representative within 30 days to formalize how that treatment will be provided. This bill gives our educators the clear framework they need, and it gives our parents the certainty they deserve. It ensures our students can focus on learning, secure in the knowledge that their health is supported in their school. As you will hear in a few minutes, other states have figured this out, and it's been proven that it works. There is no reason Michigan can't look at these examples and ensure our children receive the medically necessary treatment they need in their school setting. I have quite a few experts here joining me today to share their personal stories and discuss this legislation in greater detail. Up first joining me is my friend Kristen Weir. Kristen is from the Logan Center, which does wonderful work in Southwest Michigan with our children. Take it away, Kristen.
Thank you so much. I'll make sure you can hear me. Yes, I'm Kristen Weir. Thank you for having me today. I'm a board-certified behavior analyst. I am the Chief Program Officer for Therapy Services at Logan. I also am on faculty with the University of Notre Dame, and I teach their autism practicum courses. I have been a lifelong resident in the state of Michigan. I've been a provider for 25 years, and I've specialized in applied behavior analysis and autism services. Right now, we serve Southwest Michigan, Berrien, Cass, and Van Buren counties, but I have worked in other parts of the state. What I see is that this is something that is so needed. We have 25 years of proof, to be honest. I have seen that when we do have that opportunity to partner and collaborate with educators and support children in success in their transition from treatment to a school setting, it has been remarkable. They have been able to integrate with their peers, with their teachers, with their neighbors, with their siblings in their school setting. On the contrary, when we have not been able to help them transition, we are often met with a lot of challenge. These children at times are removed from school due to their behavior, due to their lack of ability to communicate with their educators. And when I see this time and time again, it is so heartbreaking, to be honest. The parents and the caregivers and the guardians just really want the opportunity to work with the teachers, to work with the school, and to introduce them to a provider that may have already worked with that child for years. I have times where I've worked with a child since they were 2 years old. Around 5 or 6, we're excited. We believe they're ready to go to school, to be in kindergarten, to be integrated. And what happens is that the schools often are like, we got it, we're good, we can do this. About 3 to 6 weeks into the school year, they don't have it. And the child is failing. The child is being removed from the classroom repeatedly throughout the day. The parents are being called at work to pick up their children because the behaviors are too disruptive to the school. At times, we've even had elementary school students who've had the police called on them due to behavior. And if we would have been able to be a part of this and been able to collaborate with the teachers and support them and answer any questions they had, all of these things could have been preventable. And I see this happen time and time again. This is not just a Southwest Michigan situation. This is across the entire state. And I am lucky enough, I live on the border. I live in St. Joseph, Michigan, and I also work in South Bend, Indiana. And in Indiana, Logan Center actually has multiple partnerships and MOUs with public schools, charter schools, and success academies. And we are integrated fully into their school as a partner, not a permanent placement. We fade out. Our goal is just to get in there, help, train, do whatever is necessary to provide support to that student, and fade back. And we ensure that all of our providers are credentialed, licensed, and certified. What that means, like in the state of Michigan and newly in the state of Indiana, we are licensed behavior analysts. Through that, we have to have fingerprinting, background checks, multiple things that ensure the safety of the children that we serve. And what I've seen is when we have those opportunities to partner with the schools, it is unbelievable. And it not only benefits the child that we're seeing, it benefits their peers. And we've often had teachers thank us and say, you know what, this system we implemented isn't just working for the client you have. It is actually improving the quality of the education for all the kids in the classroom. Because our goal as a behavior analyst is to look at the function of behavior. Why is this happening, or why is it not happening? That could be as simple as learning to sit in your chair, learning to engage and turn and orient when your name is called. Some of those things don't naturally generalize or transfer from therapy. Part of autism has limitations and generalization. So truly the goal of this bill is to create an opportunity for partnership. It is not to replace education. It is not to supplant educational time. It is not to remove the child from the educational setting. It is truly to be in there and be a support. I really appreciate this opportunity, and I really hope this is an option for our families in the state of Michigan.
Thank you so much. Kristen, you also have a couple other people
Yes.
that are coming up?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you so much.
So we need only 2 chairs at a time, I guess?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Representative, we have to wait till the end. Remember, that was the little introduction. And you are Angela?
No, I am Maggie Moore. So,
Okay.
hi.
Hi.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to speak with you regarding the House Bill 54-4. My name is Maggie Moore. I'm a board-certified behavior analyst, and I am the executive director of Hope Network Centers for Autism. So we provide services in Holland, Kentwood, East Lansing, and Livonia. I am also the president of the Michigan Behavior Analyst Providers Association. I also am the mother to 2 wonderful, amazing children. Sitting beside me is my son, Jonas. I'd like to share both my professional experiences as a clinician working across the state lines and my personal journey as a parent navigating Michigan's public education system. After earning my master's degree in Massachusetts, I began working in Indiana, where I spent over 7 years helping children with autism transition from the center-based services or home-based services into school-based education environments. These transitions were tailored for each child's unique needs and school dynamics. Initially, some schools were hesitant to welcome clinical teams into their classroom, but when the parents requested the collaborative meetings, we were able to share critical insights, what worked, what didn't work, how to set up a criterion-based plan for a smooth transition. Our goal was never to remain in the classroom long-term. Some of the children transitioned successfully within days. Others required a more gradual process. Once educators saw the benefit in improved behavior, increased engagement, and smoother integration, they became enthusiastic partners. We provided medically necessary treatment focused on proactive behavior management, helping children attend to instruction, behave appropriately, and gradually reduce reliance on external supporters. When I moved back to Michigan in 2018, I expected some differences, but I was surprised to learn that these same effective transition strategies were only available to families who could afford commercial insurance and could send their children to private schools. Families relying on Medicaid or attending public schools face significant barriers. House Bill 5044 seeks to remove these barriers, empowering families to request medically necessary services to support their children's transition to school. This issue is incredibly personal. My son Jonas has autism and ADHD. We didn't anticipate this when we returned to Michigan. There were moments I questioned our decision to move back to Michigan. I apologize. Like many children I've worked with, Jonas would have benefited from a structured clinical transition into a school setting. Instead, we faced significant challenges during his kindergarten and first grade years. He quickly learned that disruptive behavior would help him avoid uncomfortable tasks and earn time with the cool adults in the front office. Fortunately, my husband and I are both board-certified behavior analysts and strong advocates. He's wonderful. We initially allowed the school to conduct their functional behavior assessments and develop intervention plans. We could see from the beginning that what they proposed was not going to work, but we allowed them to do their process. It did cause a lot of challenges and a lot of difficulty in those initial years. We did go back to the school and provided them with a behavior intervention plan that we knew would be effective for him. And with that, and their agreement to implement the plan that we knew would be effective based upon our clinical knowledge, we saw immediate improvement in his classroom setting. We no longer were log rolling through our peers to get out of being in the classroom. A lot of our challenges reduced significantly. Jonas is incredibly successful now in school with a lot of support, but he does a great job. You can see he sat through a good chunk of today, partly because of all the help and support he's gotten over the years. But not every family has the resources or expertise. Many parents feel powerless, watching their children struggle without access to support they need. We love Michigan. We have no desire to return to Indiana, but I want to be able to offer the families that I serve the support that they need. House Bill 5044 is a step towards equality, inclusion, and evidence-based support for children with autism. I urge you to support it, not just for Jonas, but for every child who deserves a fair chance to thrive in their school environment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Jonas, for coming in. Really appreciate your support for your mom, and she just really loves you. That's why she's here, and that's why you're here. Thank you so much for being such a great team. You did a great job, Jonas. Thank you. Also, Representative Weiss. Wendzel. Got too many W's. Do you have other people? Do we have Angela and Heather here? Yes. Okay. Do we have Nikki? Yes. Is Nikki here also? Okay. I guess you're the third chair then, Nikki? We're going to have to, yeah, okay, thank you.
Go, Angela.
Emotional support, great. So yeah, your short version, please. No, nothing to say about the value of what you have to say, and we will have further testimony on this, so we appreciate it. Angela, you are Angela Cater, for Board Certified Behavioral Analyst, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Good morning, representatives. I'm here to tell you about a place called the Blue Room and why House Bill 5044 is critical to what happens here. My name is Angela Cater. I'm a board-certified behavior analyst, an autism mother who has spent more than a decade fighting for children who cannot yet fight for themselves. My son doesn't have an extended vocabulary. He's language delayed. But when he speaks, every word matters. When my son was 12, I noticed a sudden change. He began coming home from school in different clothes the staff had changed him into because he was suddenly having accidents, even though my son was fully potty trained before the age of 4. He began soiling himself, even though I was consistently told, "Your son had a great day." I knew something was wrong. I demanded a meeting with the school. The very morning of the meeting I requested, and as we were getting ready to leave, my son looked at me with tears in his eyes and said, "No more Blue Room." That's how and when I learned that on multiple occasions, my son had been locked in a seclusion and restraint room against his will, without my knowledge, without my consent. Not from a teacher, not from an administrator, but from my son, who has difficulty expressing himself, telling me in the only way he could that something terrible was happening to him. Imagine the fear that makes a language-delayed child who can't advocate for themselves lose control of their bodily functions. Imagine the terror that forces a child who struggles to communicate to finally find the words to beg his mother for safety. My son was diagnosed with autism at 2.5 years old. When he began ABA therapy, everything changed. He learned to communicate, and it gave him the skills he needed to thrive. It changed his life so profoundly that I changed mine. I became a board-certified behavior analyst to help other children experience that same transformation. When he entered school, I I asked the district for only one thing, to continue with what worked, a trained therapist to help him learn to regulate, but the district said no. So I advocated, I attended meetings, I cited ADA and Section 504, the same federal laws referenced in House Bill 5044. Still, the answer was no. I filed for due process, and as part of mediation, the district finally agreed to allow a therapist into the school for a very limited time. And during that short period, something incredible happened. He thrived in the classroom. His maladaptive behaviors decreased. His learning increased. His teachers saw a different child. They witnessed that this evidence-based science worked. I hoped that seeing the data and my son's improvement would lead them to continue to support him, but unfortunately they did not. They pulled the rug from under him and took away his classroom lifeline. And I watched everything fall apart. Public schools are required under IDEA to provide services like speech, OT, PT. We refer to these services as ancillary to the main driver, which is ABA therapy. But they don't allow private or outside therapists to work with students during the school day, even if those services are medically prescribed and paid for by insurance. Let me be clear, this is not a funding issue. It's a failure of understanding and accountability. This bill fixes that. The bill doesn't cost schools a single dollar. These services are already paid for by insurance, not school budgets. We are facing a teacher shortage in Michigan, especially in special education. Good teachers are leaving, not because they don't care, but because they're overwhelmed. They're expected to manage complex behaviors with limited training, support, or help. When a trained therapist is present, classrooms stabilize, teachers can teach, our students can learn. The bill doesn't just protect children, it helps keep teachers in the classroom. Michigan ranks amongst the lowest in the nation for special education outcomes. Parents are quitting their jobs, pulling their children out of school, and turning to homeschooling, not because they want to, but because it's the only way to keep their children safe. Something has to change because what's in place isn't just failing our kids, it's breaking them. My son is 14 now. I've been fighting for him for 10 years. 10 years of meetings, mediation, and heartache. He should be advancing. Instead, he carries trauma that should never have been existed. But I still believe in our schools, I believe in our teachers, and I believe that if we do better, we can do better if we choose to. This bill is how we choose better. It will give our children a chance. Today, I am asking you to vote in favor of this bill. This is not a request for a special accommodation, but rather a medical necessity. Without this bill, our children will not have the tools to prevent situations like the one I'm describing. You have the power to make Michigan a state that puts children first, before excuses, before fear, before inconvenience. So when you cast your vote, ask yourself, will you be remembered as someone who stood up for Michigan's children or someone who looked away when it mattered most? Our children are counting on you. My son is counting on you. Don't let them down. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. We appreciate your voice for your son. And we have Heather Eckner, correct? Representing the Autism Alliance, and Nikki Hemp also doing the support system.
Thank you, Chair DeBoer, and members of the committee. As mentioned, I serve as the Director of Statewide Education for the Autism Alliance of Michigan. I'm also a former classroom teacher, and most importantly, I'm the parent of 2 children, both of which do have disabilities, including autism. I appreciate the opportunity to testify today in support of House Bill 5044, which would allow, as you've been hearing, community-based providers of applied behavior analysis to deliver medically necessary interventions to autistic students within school settings. At the Autism Alliance of Michigan, we work with thousands of families across our state. One message comes through clearly and consistently: children with autism need to be in school, integrated, included, learning alongside their peers, not isolated either in the home or only in clinical therapy centers or forced to choose between education and treatment. As you've heard today, ABA is a medically recognized standard of care for autism. Autistic youth don't suddenly no longer have their needs related to their disability when they're in the school setting. It is prescribed by licensed clinicians because it helps improve or maintain behavioral and developmental challenges that can otherwise hinder their ability to be in the learning setting. Just like insulin for diabetes or guide dog for blindness, ABA is medically necessary. That's why you're hearing references, and they're included in the bill, to Section 504 in the Americans with Disabilities Act. These are similar kinds of provisions. It should not be treated differently simply because it addresses behavioral health. Unfortunately today, many Michigan schools block this medically necessary intervention from taking place in those settings. This creates a parity violation, whereas behavioral health is treated differently than physical health, and it's contrary to both federal law, as we've shared, and common sense. The result, families face impossible choices. Those are the families that we hear from at the Autism Alliance of Michigan. They reach out to our navigators, our statewide program, and ask for help. They ask for guidance, they ask for resources, and they say they are given these impossible choices of, my child is not succeeding in school, they're being sent home, I'm hearing these stories, they don't want to go back to school, I'm being called, I can't work, what can I do? And the clinics, because of the insurance reimbursement, can support students up to 40 hours a week for certain students in the clinic setting. There have been growing numbers of families that are disenrolling their children completely from our public education system to enroll them in clinic settings because the school is refusing to meet that compromise in the middle. So when we talk about common sense, this is the ground, the shared ground that we're talking about, and we're asking for your help to guide that way. So what happens to families that try to stay in school? They pick them up early, they run them back to clinics, they try to fit in the therapy that their children need to succeed in school outside of school hours. There are not enough waking hours in the week for that. The demand that it pulls on families, tiredness, exhaustion, barriers to transportation, they're numerous. And these are some of the families that have some of the greatest barriers and challenges that they're already trying to overcome. Why are we making it harder within our community-based school settings? So this impacts outcomes. As Angela shared, Michigan does have some of the worst, across all measures, outcomes for special education in the nation. Barriers like this continue to drive that force down instead of looking for collaborative ways to look towards improvement. So our special education experience survey that the Autism Alliance of Michigan issued in 2023, we have copies for every committee member if you're interested after. We received nearly 900 responses. This represents the collective voice of families in Michigan connected to special education. And what we heard in this survey was we found that access to ABA intervention was repeatedly one of the top findings of families reported as being inadequate, unavailable, or denied by school settings. The voices are loud and clear in this survey. It also addresses the issues of seclusion and restraint, like Angela had mentioned. These are voices of families saying, we need your help. So House Bill 5044, it offers a balanced, collaborative solution to structural issues within the current system, the barriers that students and families face. By requiring schools to make those reasonable accommodations under Section 504 in the ADA for medically necessary behavioral health treatment, it allows that collaboration between community-based providers and school staff, ensuring ABA services reinforce, as we heard before, not replace. So be very clear on that. This is not, the school should still deliver the supports and services that students with disabilities require. This is talking about that elevated medically necessary level of intervention that students with autism often require. They should be able to work together in collaboration. We're not trying to take kids out of the school setting, we're trying to keep them in it. So we have to think about this in the context. Another important point is that this bill is budget neutral. This does not pull on the current existing cost to school districts in their school aid fund. This is already reimbursed through other payment mechanisms. And so having that covered, it's really about collaboration. And the benefits are substantial. Research shows that more than $200,000 in savings per child during their K-12 years and up to $2.8 million in lifetime public cost savings can be achieved through the interdependence and that reduced reliance on public school support and then later, social service support. So many of you have probably heard about autism in the news lately. The current incidence rate of autism is 1 in 31. So think about your regular classroom size. While Michigan's overall public school enrollment, we heard this earlier today, has been declining, the proportion of students with disabilities being found eligible for special education is increasing. So you're seeing this confluence of trend lines. And currently, it's making up 15% of our total student population in public schools. Autism is one of the eligibility categories in special education that has seen accelerated growth. When I talk about accelerated growth, I'm talking about numbers that are starting to double each other year over year. The past several years, it happened particularly upon the return to in-person learning from pandemic school closures. We were averaging about almost 1,000 new kids identified for autism eligibility. And then after the return to school in-person learning, it's now over 2,000 each year. So think of that number year over year increasing. So the needs are increasing while the barriers remain in place. And so by allowing the medically necessary ABA to take place in schools, we can reduce the use of exclusionary tactics like suspensions, virtual push-outs, or the traumatizing use of seclusion and restraint like we heard about. And this is happening to our most vulnerable students, many of which often don't have verbal communication that they're able to tell their families what's happening to them. So bringing in outside trained, licensed, credential, community-based providers also offers that additional pair of eyes and support in that setting for our vulnerable kids. By ensuring access is allowed where students spend the majority of their waking hours during the week, Michigan can collaborate towards improving student outcomes, which we desperately need, and keep more children learning where they belong in their neighborhood schools. I urge you to support House Bill 5044 so that Michigan students with autism can access both their education and their medically necessary care without having to choose between the two. Thank you for your time and considerations, and I'm happy to answer any questions from the committee.
Yeah, I am not sure how many questions we can answer. Representative Weiss?
Thank you. Appreciate your testimony and appreciate all the testimony so much today. And this might be a better question potentially for the sponsor. I'm not sure. Okay. But I understand the need for this. I actually have 2 children who just turned 3 and have their first IEPs and are just starting school.
Welcome to the club.
So I understand. I am worried about potential unintended consequences of this legislation. So I did read in the bill specifically, it's there is a line that says the student's school must allow the requested medically necessary treatment to be provided unless it would impose a fundamental alteration or an undue burden on the school under the specified federal statutes. Mm-hmm. My concern in reading that is how is that being defined? Because I feel like depending on how you're defining that could open up districts for lawsuits, could create unintended increased costs that could pull money out of classrooms if it's not clearly defined in the bill.
Sure. So the way I view this, well, I'll tell you, the way special education going is in Michigan right now is already opening up risks for due process hearings, lawsuits, state complaints being filed, and that's happening, and actually state complaints are on the rise. There was a recent Bridge, Michigan article about that. So you're already seeing that. So whenever we kind of do these almost like straw man arguments where it's wait, but what if this awful thing happens? The awful things are already happening in public schools in Michigan right now to kids with disabilities. And so those determinations, you're right, there are federal statutes and regulations, and including state ones, that have to be considered already. And restrictive placements are part of that. We have to consider that's part of the planning process, the individualized planning process for any child with a disability is where are things happening that are most appropriate? What is the level and degree that is most appropriate? Our view on that would be that we see your role as lawmakers is to help us with the state consistent, fair policy to open up the access and then allow those team meetings, the decision-making, as they already do occur at the local level, to continue at the local level. There will likely need to be some policy implementation guidance, just like we already have for almost all the other, statutes and regulations that exist. So I hear the concerns that you're raising, and this is nothing new that we're seeing. We're actually seeing deepening and worsening challenges and problems and results from this. This is a pathway to open access to a shared collaborative path. And yes, those kinds of things will need to be taken into consideration, primarily through policy implementation and guidance.
Thank you. You can understand how the value of a relationship with someone who's been working with you, and you're a child who lives in a world of autism, to have an ambassador with you when you begin a new world that you've never been a part of.
Absolutely.
And if you can make that initial impression positive and help that child have a way to navigate that they're familiar with from a person they trust in a whole new world, your chances of success are just exponentially increased. Just like we have a first impression of a person when they come in for a job interview, many people say within the first 5 minutes, you know whether that's going to be a good person or not. When you walk inside a building, you make a judgment on that building by that entranceway, and that child is doing the same thing when they come into this whole new world they've never been to, and they have no idea what's going on. And if they can have a trusted ambassador, I just think they are so much better off, and we won't be able to do everything, but I hope that we can make this possible for these children. And, you feel your heart. We feel the presence of a mother's heart, and a father's heart would be here too if they could get here. I understand that, but when you go through those things with your children, you rise to have a voice because you care long term, not just for your own child, but for the other children. And as we've heard, autism is on an exponential rise. This is not something we can ignore as a state. So thank you so much for your testimony, and we're going to have to cut off questions there. We have cards. Joe DeVault from Macomb ISD opposes the bill, does not wish to speak. John Severinson from the Michigan Association of Intermediate School Administrators opposes the bill, does not want to speak. Colin Ford, Michigan Chapter of American Academy of Pediatrics, supports the bill, does not wish to speak. Olivia Ponte, Michigan Department of Education, opposes the bill, does not want to speak. Abby Seifer from the Michigan Association of Administrators of Special Education opposes the bill as introduced, has other things to say, and does not wish to speak. Madeline Towsley from Murakee supports the bill, does not wish to speak. Chris Letourneau, BCBA from Hope Network, Holland Center for Autism, supports the bill, does not wish to speak. Sarah Walsh from the Hope Network supports the bill, does not wish to speak. Holly McKee, PhD, supports the bill, does not wish to speak. We also have 70 electronic cards that were sent in support of HB 5044. They're too numerous to read here given the time constraints, but they will be recorded in the committee's minutes. So thank you so much, and please forgive me, Representative Wendzel. So glad for your group that you had here and so well organized. Thank you for your leadership on this. So next, we will be taking up House Bill 5049, sponsored by Representative Weiss, House Bill 5050, sponsored by Representative Snyder, and House Bills 5051 to 5054, sponsored by me. These 6 bills constitute the Epinephrine Access Update Package. We'll also hold our questions until the end of testimony on these bills. You have a way. These things are piling up here. Currently, Michigan law allows authorized entities, including schools, law enforcement, firefighters, and summer camps, to obtain and use epinephrine autoinjectors, also known by the brand name EpiPens, for individuals experiencing anaphylaxis due to an allergy. This package amends the term auto-injectors in current law to the term epinephrine delivery system to add new FDA-approved epinephrine pharmaceuticals to be permitted for prescription use by these authorized entities, in addition to the EpiPens. New delivery systems, such as the already FDA-approved nasal spray epinephrine, as well as epinephrine sublingual film, which has FDA approval pending in early February, are more affordable, handle temperature extremes differently, and have a longer shelf life before expiration. As we have seen in recent years, complex pharmaceutical supply chains and unforeseen global events can disrupt supplies of life-saving drugs and inflate prices. The passage of this package will combat these risks and improve access to these life-saving drugs for those living with severe, potentially life-threatening allergic reactions. David Andrusiak and Jake Gelsema with my office are going to present a couple of slides with actual EpiPen usage data from the Michigan Public Schools and speak a little bit about the pharmaceuticals I just mentioned. And I'll invite Representative Weiss and Jason Coella from Representative Snyder's office to also speak on those bills. Please take it away, gentlemen.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee, for the opportunity to testify today. The reason the chair asked me to testify is because I actually have a severe peanut allergy myself since I was 2 years old, so I carry with me 2 EpiPens every day. Stephen's going to pass out a practice one that you can pass around and take a look at. So this has been the gold standard for treating anaphylaxis for decades, the EpiPen auto-injector. Now we have a new product called Neffy. It uses the same delivery system as Narcan, so it is a proven delivery system. It also includes an absorption agent that gets it into your system just as fast as the auto-injector with the needle. Another one pending FDA approval, as the chair mentioned, is Anafilm. It is a sublingual film that dissolves on your tongue, so another option that is out there. So one thing we're looking at is the shelf life of these products. For EpiPen auto-injectors, it's typically 12 to 18 months. Neffy's shelf life is between 24 and 30 months, and Anafilm's is about 24 based on their initial testing. So they are comparable in price, but where you could see savings is having to buy them less often. Another thing you may not know about epinephrine is it is subject to temperature changes, especially extreme heat. So when we're thinking about our firefighters and our police officers, they might have them in their cars. Obviously, we just had a very hot summer. It was drilled in me from a young age by my mom to never leave this in my car as if it were a pet or a baby, because it might not be effective once you need it. So Neffy is a little bit more durable to extreme temperatures, up to 122 degrees for a few days, and the Anafilm it can handle up to 122 degrees for a full year. So with these, it says above 86 degrees is when it starts to become a concern. So here's some data from the MDE based on the last 3 years of instances in school of one of these being administered to a student experiencing anaphylaxis. So approximately about 200 a year. This happens here in the state of Michigan. About 36% of these incidents are for students that were not previously known to be allergic. So you can imagine how scary that would be, not knowing what's happening. And luckily they have these on hand to be administered to save their lives. So, and about 61% of all these incidents, it was administered epinephrine from the school stock of EpiPens. So this would expand more options for the nasal spray and the sublingual film to also be obtained by the schools. And happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? No? Thank you. Appreciate it, David. Jake Gelsema, what would you, are you going to talk to or no?
The only thing that I'd add is with the temperature extremes in the state, EpiPens also have unique challenges with the winter for, especially probably in the case of first responders. If they get cold, it can, the capsule inside can freeze from my research and possibly break, and then you would not, it wouldn't work when you used it. which is a major problem. David, do you want to talk about the needle and why there's 2 in the pack?
Oh, yeah. So once this is administered, it begins working almost immediately, but it could run out after about 30 minutes. You may need to use another one. Another thing that happens more often than you'd think for someone administering this in an emergency situation, they may not read carefully the directions on the back, and they can actually do it backwards and inject themselves in the thumb. So that's why there's always 2. So with the other options, obviously you wouldn't accidentally spray your own nose with a nasal spray.
Yeah, and these are not medically trained people. I mean, teachers in the classroom, they've never administered a syringe before. So, yeah, and then they already have 29 other people. Yes, so that's a lot to expect of them. And if you can have a different way to do it, it's so much easier. Yes, anyone else? No? Okay. Thank you. Are you pointing at somebody? Oh, Weiss, did you have something?
It's a great package, Madam Chair. Appreciate being included on it. I will just add to, I know it was already stated, but I think the longer shelf life is a huge deal with this too, because EpiPens do expire so quickly.
Yeah.
And important note too is that in the bills, it does not require that districts use these different kinds of systems. It just gives them the option if they want to.
Right, we just have a bigger menu. Right, that's great. So they don't have to immediately do it if they've already invested. Yes, and Jason Coel, are you here? Would you want to say anything, Jason? No, you're good? Jason says amen from the back. Thank you. Okay, thank you, guys. We also have Hendrina Caperi, the past president of the Michigan Association of School Nurses, and Amy Zagman, the executive director of the Michigan Council for Maternal and Child Health, here today to testify in support of the bill package. Please begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair, especially for your sponsorship of this package, along with Representative Weiss and Representative Snyder. We greatly appreciate your partnership on this. Your staff has done an excellent job. I don't know that I need to add anything. I know Hendrina's been waiting to speak, so I think I will turn it over to her in case you all have any clinical questions about how this is actually actualized in the school setting. So, Hendrina, I'll let you take it away.
Hello, Chair DeBoer and members of the committee. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I am representing the Michigan Association of School Nurses this morning. Actually, probably since a lot of this has already been discussed, I'm just gonna, in the interest of time, cut back a couple things. But one thing I want to remind folks is that anaphylaxis is a life-threatening allergic reaction that can occur in seconds. I mean, we think about minutes, but really seconds. And rapid administration of epinephrine is critical to saving lives. While the current law requires schools to stock epinephrine autoinjectors, which has been an important and great step in protecting our students, the language is outdated. School nurses, of course, I'm a school nurse, we are highly trained to recognize and treat anaphylaxis, but they're not always in every building, and they're not even in some buildings at all. When a nurse is absent, staff members may hesitate to administer an injection, risking a fatal delay. In one case, I can tell you that we had a student who, in a different district, where they contacted the parent instead of administering her own epinephrine, a fear of doing the injection. The student's tongue became so swollen, it began to obstruct their airway. So that's why some of this language is important, and the shift from just having auto-injector only to some other delivery systems will be very helpful. This simple change will allow schools to adopt new, safe, and effective technologies, increase confidence among staff during emergencies when a nurse is not present, and align Michigan with evolving healthcare standards. We urge you to support this update to protect the health and lives of Michigan students, staff, and visitors to their campus. Thank you, and I'll take any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Henrietta. Any other questions? Thank you for your service and leading the school nurses. We really appreciate their presence in the school. My husband always so appreciated having the school nurses to ask about things, and you just need so many hands on deck when you're helping those little people. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So thank you for all of your advocacy on this issue. Do we have any closing questions? We wore everyone out. Thank you so much. And it is kind of cut and dried. We want to save children's lives, and 36, David, did you say 36 kids per year have never been diagnosed, and there they are in the classroom setting? About 36% of the 200. 30% of the, oh, wow, percentage of the 200, yeah. That is a lot, yeah. So we definitely want the best way and the easiest way to administer help for them as fast as possible. And I'm sure the syringe was the hesitation of that teacher calling the parent first. So, yeah, thank you very much. Do we have any cards? Yes. Okay, Tanya Whitehead from the Michigan Parent-Teacher Association. She does not wish to speak and supports the bill. Olivia Ponte from the Michigan Department of Education does not wish to speak and also supports the bill. So thank you all so much for hearing this, and we all give thanks for new ideas, right? And the opportunity to continue to come up with better ways to support children. So Vice Chair Linting moves, we don't have any excuse. Oh, yes, you do. Okay. Vice Chair Linting moves to excuse absent members, and there being no objection, that absent member is excused. So there being no further business before the committee, the House Committee on Education and Workforce will stand adjourned.